Nick, the Bryant McFadden tweet from yesterday, right around 4 p.m., that Omar Khan and the Pittsburgh Steelers were in pursuit of a, quote, significant playmaker. Do you think this happens? When do you think this happens? And who do you think that significant playmaker is?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to be a little bit more patient on it just because I think the Steelers are making calls around the league about wide receivers. I think that has been happening for a very long time since they traded Deontay Johnson. They've wanted to get a significant playmaker, as Brian McFadden put it. I know they've called the 49ers multiple times about both Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. They've called multiple times about Courtland Sutton. Both of those, to my knowledge, so far, Donnie, have gone nowhere. The 49ers are earnest in their kind of respects to keep Ayuk, and they want to pay him. They'd rather trade Deebo, but they're fine just keeping both of them for this year. And the Broncos right now don't want to trade Courtland Sutton. I still think Sutton is probably the likeliest kind of option. They're very interested in Sutton, and Sutton right now wants that new contract. And, a lot of the noise that comes out of Denver of them not wanting to trade Courtland Sutton is coming from that Broncos organization side. They want to keep Courtland Sutton because he's a good receiver. He's a good receiver for Bo Nix. They have a rookie quarterback, and they want to surround him with talent. But Courtland Sutton, I don't think, is so happy right now. Doesn't have a lot of guaranteed money on his deal. Wants a re-up on it. So I think that one is one to watch. I don't think it's imminent. I don't think it's going to happen particularly soon because, again, there's no rush there. But if this kind of drags on, into the summer, I'm talking, OTAs, maybe even training camp, I think that's where we kind of start to pick up the ball here. Steelers have called at least 7 or 8 teams just about wide receivers. I'm sure they've checked in on, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. But again, that's not really going to go anywhere. I think they're going to have to be patient in waiting for that wide receiver to kind of unlock themselves to maybe be a guy that they could trade for. So I don't expect anything too soon. It could even drag into training camp, but I do expect them to add to this wide receiver room before the start of the season. Omar Khan and Andy Weidel definitely not completely happy with the wide receiver room they have right now. And that could even come via free agency. DJ Chark is still out there. I think he's a guy that they've made overtures to as well.
Let's just say that they don't actually make an addition to the receivers room. I know it sounds unrealistic, but if they don't, who goes into the season as that wide receiver 2 in complement of George Pickens?
It's got to be Roman Wilson. I really think it is him if they don't get a guy. Quez Watkins, Calvin Austin III, and Van Jefferson all have things they do well, but they're more wide receiver 4 types. And you look at Roman Wilson right now, and there's a clearly identifiable way for him to have success. He's an absolute speedy dot that you can use over the middle of the field on crossers. You can get him into condensed sets. You just can't let him play outside. So I think when you get into those 3 wide receiver sets, it can be a little tougher because he's not going to line up on the line of scrimmage and be press coverage. But when you're in, 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends and he has to kind of be the second guy in there, I think he can do it. You just got to make sure you get him free on motion, stack sets, get him to work over the middle of the field. You look over his kind of profile at Michigan, 65% of his routes came from the slot. That's really where he thrives. But in Arthur Smith's offense, you can kind of be a quasi-slot outside receiver because of what he does with condensed formations, stack sets, so he can keep guys off the line from getting pressed. And Roman Wilson is a tough-as-nails player. Needs to become a little bit more kind of nuanced in his route pacing and route running, but he catches everything thrown his way. He wins between the numbers, and he can create explosives. And so that's where he would be. And I think that complements George Pickens really well. Reminds me a lot of a guy like Tyler Lockett that could grow into that. He's not going to be, what Tyler Lockett is right now, but you go back, look at a young Tyler Lockett, there's a lot of similarities to what Roman Wilson is now. If he can polish his routes up a little bit, he can profile as that type of player. So he'd be the 2, I think, right now.